Hi everyone, this is Kiri for Arden Creative Studio and I'm using the brand new Page Starters collection. So I'm working with the two 6x8 paper pads and we have one that has the patterns and then we have the solids. So there's a number of colours. We have the sort of deep tealy blues, which is the one I'm working with here. There's some pinky reds. There's like an ochre yellow. There's a soft green. Some soft apricot and a sort of more ferny green colour. So the Page Starters collection is really there to help make it easy for you to create your layout, or whether it's a card or journaling page, etc. I work primarily with 12 by 12 layouts. So what I've done is I've taken one of the papers from the 6x8 paper pad. It's the blue one here, and you'll see there was almost like a square in the background there. So it's just the perfect place to place your photo. So I printed my photo in a square and it is approximately, I'm going to literally measure it as we speak. It's around about it's just a bit less than 4 inches square, including my white border. So so that pattern paper really creates the base for you to start making your layout. And from that, you can build up the layers and the embellishments. So there are lots of other pattern papers in the paper pad, and some of them have a circle. Some of them have more of like a 6x4 photo shape. Some almost have two smaller shapes ready for two smaller photos. So yeah, it just makes it really easy for you to work with when you're putting a layout together, particularly if you're new to scrapbooking. So I've got my one photo. I've got my pattern paper background, and then I pulled a couple of the solids from the 6x8 solid paper pack, and I've decided on the two. I pulled in a third, but I couldn't decide that it really worked quite well. So I'm sticking with the sort of deeper tealy blue and the sort of pinky red tone. And then I've just cut those two strips, cut them in the middle because I wanted them to extend further across my layout. And obviously being 12 by 12, I needed to do that. But I also wanted to create a bit more of a background on my white cardstock. So I'm just bringing in, and I've got a mini brayer here. This is a really easy way to do some mixed media on your background. I actually don't use mixed media a lot. So, but I was determined to add a little bit more color to the background. This is an easy way to do it. Literally, your ink pad on my craft mat, add a little bit of water, and then just roll and just, work out where you want it to go. So I've created my first layer. I dried it off and then realized I probably needed a bit more because ultimately I am covering most of it up by the time I put my photo and pattern papers back down. So yeah, so I've gone with the blue. This is a distress oxide actually in weathered wood, and then I'll just add splatters all over. Now I then decided I wanted to bring in some of the sort of the peachy pinky red color. So I pull in some tattered rose distress oxide, which you can see here. I've just layered it over the top of the blue, and you dry it off between each layer and then add the splatters. So I've got that there, and as you can see, yes, most of it is covered up, but that's okay because really what I'm looking for is just a bit of the mixed media peeking out around the edges. And then I've got one of the brand new stamp sets. It's called Wispy Stems, and I'm just stamping that in that top left corner, and then I'm going to stamp it in the bottom right. And again, I'm using the weathered wood distress oxide to stamp with, and I'm just using my paper layers just to make sure that I'm going to stamp it and you can see it, and I'm stamping it twice there so I get that sort of layered effect and it's sort of a softer second print. I realized I hadn't done that at the top, so that's why I stamped in the center there because I know it's going to be covered up, and then I stamped a second time in that top left corner. So now I can stick down my paper block, and of course I bring in my trusty T-square. I don't know what I'd do without that because I could not possibly have something that was a bit wonky on my layout. So yeah, just making sure that that's nice and straight. And then I do love to add lots of texture and dimension into my layout. So here I've distressed the edges of all the pattern papers, and basically here I'm sort of just working around it, lifting them up, tearing into them a little bit, curling in the corners, so that I've just got that little bit more texture and dimension. Um, so now I can get my photo stuck down. I've mounted the photo on the same tealy blue paper from the solids pack. And what I usually do with my photos, I raise the top edge with foam pads and leave the bottom edge straight. And the reason I do that is because typically when I'm adding embellishments around a photo around the bottom, I'm often adding them over the photo, and at the top I'm tucking them in behind. So yeah, so that's just why I use my foam pads like that. Keep, photo raise at the top, flat at the bottom. So now I've pulled out a mix of ephemera pieces from the ephemera pack that coordinates with the papers. And I've got these lovely florals here, floral cluster, and I'm going to have one on the top left and then one on the bottom right. And then I'm just tucking in some of the other pieces. So there's a stamp up there that says friends, which ties perfectly with my photo because I'm with my lovely friend Wendy when we went to Disneyland Paris a little earlier this year. And there were 5 of us that went, and it was a bit of a celebration, a birthday celebration, because I'm having a big birthday this year. And so was my friend Julie. So we decided we would do a trip to Disney. So, and I actually used to work for the Disney store here in the UK. So, yeah, so it was really lovely to just go and get a bit of a Disney fix. So, yeah, this was a great photo of Wendy and I in our mini ears, lots of sparkles. So, yeah, and the colours worked really lovely with the colours in the Page Starters collection. So, yeah. So, okay, so bottom cluster here. So I've got the floral cluster again. I've got one of the journaling cards, and I'm just adding it as a layer really under here. Just cutting up, trimmed a little bit off there, just tucking it under. Yeah, here's the T-square, making sure it's straight. And then I've got the piece that I I cut off, and then I realised actually that would work quite nice, balancing it at the top end, so tucking it under that top layer. What else have I got? Oh, I've got my the little it's like a receipt pad paper in the sort of soft blue that I've tucked under on the right. I'm bringing in some of the leafy pieces. Oh, this is one of the laser cut pieces, and these are beautiful. They are so fine and so delicate, but they really, really are lovely. So, and they're double-sided, which is brilliant. So if your leaves curve one way, but you want them the other, that's fine. You can turn them over. So, yeah, I love those. So, yeah, I'm just mixing in some of the laser cuts with the ephemera. That's a little banner piece that I'm just tucking in under there. And then, of course, a few butterflies. I mean, what layout, can you not add butterflies to? I don't mind adding butterflies. I mean, I think I find that, you can add lots of things. It might not be exactly about your photo, but hey, that's fine. Yeah, so we've got some of the butterflies. Oh, here's some of the phrases that we've got. I've got it's the little things and life is an adventure. And I've raised both of those up on foam pads and just sticking them over the top of the floral cluster. And then I'm bringing in some of the rub-ons, and they're lovely as well. Really, really love. They sort of just go on so easily, not like the rub-ons of old, for those of you who've been around quite a long time and can remember back to the days of, the old style rub-ons. Oh my goodness, how hard were they to really to come off? Anyway, these are nothing like that. So I've added that there to the right. It says collect more memories. And then I've got the butterfly there, rub-on, that I'm just adding into that top left. So again, keeping to the sort of tealy tones and the pinky red tones with my ephemera pieces. I'm just tucking a little ticket up there. Oh, another rub-on. This was a corner piece I thought worked really well because it was the same tones. So I'm just going to add that there. I loved the sort of detail that it added. And it sort of extended my vertical line across a little further, which I liked. And rub-ons are great for adding a layer. So if you've got a plainer background, adding a rub-on, or whether it's a floral or it's butterflies or hearts or whatever it is, it really adds and creates another layer to your layout. So I've got my rub-ons, I've got the blue solid paper, I've got pinky peach solid paper, and I've got the pattern paper, I've got my photo. So I'm already building up quite a few layers, and that is I definitely love to do that with all of my layouts. Okay, so where are we now? We're getting towards the end. I've got the other stamp set that is also part of this collection. It's called Postmarked Adventures, and it's got a really lovely butterfly. It's just an outline of a butterfly, and I'm just adding a few of those. I'm stamping those with the tattered rose again to match my background. So I brought a couple of those, one around the bottom, over to the right, and at the top left. And then I'm pretty much done, I think. Oh, title. That's right. So in the ephemera pack, you've got some of the word titles. So this one I decided to use was Life is an Adventure. So I'm repeating my little phrase that I used earlier, but I felt like it was perfect for my photo. So I've raised that up on foam pads. And then because I'm sitting it off from the photo, I do add another layer of foam pads to the right because my photo is already raised up on foam pads. So I just needed to balance that. And then I've just got a few sequins from my stash, and I'm just popping a few of them around the layout because they tie into the fact that we've got sparkly mini ears on. So yeah, I just had to add some sparkly sequins. So here you go. Here is the final layout. I've added my journaling down to the bottom right. Here are some of the close-up pics. I hope you've enjoyed watching the process video and seeing how I've used the fabulous new page starters collection from Arden Creative Studio. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye for now.